After the ban of TikTok in the United States, almost every single China-based company has come under question and may be susceptible to a potential ban. And while all you amazing viewers, who should subscribe right now by the way if you aren't already, should know, Warframe is unfortunately owned by the Chinese super company Tencent. Tencent is actually worth more than $100 billion more than ByteDance, the owners of TikTok. If that puts it into any perspective on how powerful this company is, and why or why not make them under target for a ban from the United States government. Before getting too much further into this video, I wanted to give a shout out to Pupsker. I actually saw a thumbnail for his recent video talking about this topic, and that's why I ended up looking into this situation myself. Also, to be clear, I did not watch his video just to ensure everything I say is of my own opinion and beliefs after researching the subject on my own. But yeah, shout out to Pupsker for making me aware of the recent actions that the United States government has taken against Tencent. Before we can get into if Tencent and Tencent-owned companies and products could be banned in the United States, we have to actually understand the specific reasons something like TikTok got banned. And just to be clear, I'm not saying I disagree or agree with these reasons, I'm just going to explain why it was banned here, not if I think it's like justified or not. That's not really what I'm going to try to do. So unlike the United States and a lot of other capitalist mixed marketed economies, the Chinese government has a hand in nearly every single company within the country, whether the company is private or not, usually holding at least a 1% share in nearly every mid to large size company, even if it's private. This on its own isn't like a huge thing, it just means that when a company like ByteDance profits, the company that owns TikTok, the Chinese government profits as well, which is something the United States obviously doesn't like happening. However, this isn't the biggest concern for TikTok or of TikTok, just one of many things. In Article 7 of the National Intelligence Law of the People's Republic of China, it states this: all organizations and citizens shall support, assist, and cooperate with national intelligence efforts in accordance with law and shall protect national intelligence work secrets they are aware of. While in my personal opinion, this law isn't necessarily that strange in itself for a country to have, it does mean that when the government requests information from individual companies, they must cooperate. There's actually a lot more laws in the National Intelligence Law section that allude to this as well, but Article 7 is the most broad and makes it the most clear, to me at least, that any information that a Chinese company may have, the Chinese government has a right to have as well. So the next question you might ask is, what information is something like TikTok providing? And my answer is I'm not entirely sure because I'm not familiar enough with the app myself. However, it absolutely is collecting information from every single user. Probably their location, their interests, their shopping habits, and the US government even hinted that TikTok was able to see your communications with other people through text message. However, that claim itself remains unclear if it's true or not. While stealing your information is obviously bad, it's actually not any different than what companies like YouTube, Facebook, and like X do. They are all actively stealing your information every second you use it and probably selling it the very next second. Obviously, the difference between those companies and TikTok is that they're also loyal to the United States and cooperate with them when required, while TikTok is owned by China and cooperates with China. The second difference between the companies is that TikTok is obligated to work with the Chinese government, while the rest of those companies that I just mentioned have no official ties or requirements expecting them to work with the US government. However, the relationship is close enough to the US government that China has actually banned all of those apps. Honestly, if China didn't have nearly every single Western piece of media banned, I don't think there ever would have been a risk of TikTok getting banned. But that's kind of irrelevant to this section, since the US government didn't mention getting even as a reason they banned TikTok. But yeah, a foreign government having access to literal server rooms of information on your citizens isn't something desirable, and is the major reason TikTok was banned. Also, once again, I don't care about TikTok getting banned or not, but you do have to be extremely naive to truly believe TikTok's CEO when they claim they aren't actively sharing every piece of information gathered with the Chinese government, or are at least storing it in a place where that information may be accessed by their government. Like, guys, they're doing it. I'm sorry to tell you, he's just lying. Let's be real here, guys. don't fall for what he's saying. We all know the Chinese government has access to every piece of information that you've given TikTok. Now, if you care or not is a different thing, but just be aware that China does have all your information. They probably already had it before, to be honest, but now they definitely do. Anyway, the third and final major reason that TikTok was banned was for propaganda purposes. TikTok supporting the Chinese government are generally more well received on TikTok than ones describing the situation going on in China, where there may or may not be a mass, I don't know how to say this without maybe being in trouble. I do want to travel to China someday, so I don't really want to say this like right up, but there is a mass unaliving of a certain religious group in Xinjiang, China. So yeah, those posts usually don't do well talking about that, which that's not a good look. That's not a good look. That's not a good look, guys. Anyway, this propaganda angle is a bit more complex. Since I personally didn't use TikTok, I don't know how accurate this angle is. However, it is absolutely something that was brought up during court hearings. Anyway, now that we've discussed the major reasons TikTok was banned, let's talk about if Tencent and Warframe are guilty of any of these things, and if they could possibly be banned because of it. So the three things we have to ask ourselves are, is Tencent helping the Chinese government profit? Are they stealing American information and passing it on to the Chinese government? And finally, if they're spreading propaganda that either makes the US look bad or China look better than it really is. The answer to these questions are yes, yes, and yes. Tencent is absolutely guilty of everything that TikTok and ByteDance was accused of, and probably a lot more. And now let's go into how they are guilty for each of these reasons. Obviously, as we already mentioned, every single Chinese company helps their government prosper, so it isn't any different here, besides the fact Tencent is worth over 150 billion more than ByteDance, so they're making China a lot more money. When it comes to stealing your information, this is something that is shared by every single Chinese company as well. It's more of a problem on how much information the country might have access to from that company, rather than the fact that it will hand over what it has to the Chinese government. And well, guess what, boys and girls and everything else? When you download games on your computer or on your phone, guess who's getting all that information? With Tencent owning League of Legends and Warframe, among literally thousands of other major titles, they got a lot of info. However, League and Warframe are particularly in trouble because Tencent fully owns Riot Games and owns 61% of Digital Extremes, meaning both companies are completely loyal to Tencent, pretty much, and Tencent can make whatever decisions they want in regards to those companies. Most of Tencent's holdings, like their holdings on Larian, are partial, or have contracts involved that don't allow them to take information or make decisions. But that is absolutely not true for the two studios I just mentioned. Beyond having to bend to the whim of the Chinese government and hand over information their companies may collect, Tencent is also likely guilty of spreading propaganda. With their popular social media platform, WeChat, which is the most popular social media platform in China. However, since WeChat is only widely used in China, it most certainly wouldn't be considered the national security concern that TikTok is, at least in regards to propaganda. Did you guys know they owned WeChat though? That's insane. Tencent is literally the most successful company ever. This is insane. They owned WeChat. Like, what's going on here? So as you can see, Tencent pretty much fits all the concerns that the United States might have about Chinese companies. And to make it even worse, the US government has actually just announced that Tencent would be making the CMC list, or the Chinese Military Company list, which is a list of companies that has strong ties to the Chinese military. Getting your name on this list isn't exactly uncommon for Chinese companies, with over 100 currently on this list, but that doesn't mean it isn't a big deal. Tencent stock actually took a huge drop after they were announced on the list, because being announced on this list bans the US government from directly working with your company. Thankfully, it doesn't ban the rest of the country from working with those companies, or Warframe would have already been banned in the United States. However, Tencent being put on this list is absolutely not a good sign. It already shows the US government's willingness to harm Tencent with some sort of bans, and then of course, that means they have the potential to go all the way. Now, I don't want to be all doom and gloom. While obviously Tencent checks a lot of the boxes for getting government banned, there's a few good reasons why I'm not scared of Warframe getting banned, and I want to talk about them now. The first and most obvious reason Warframe will probably be safe is because the US government didn't ban ByteDance, TikTok's parent company. They just banned TikTok since that is what they viewed as a security risk from ByteDance. That means that it's pretty damn unlikely that they would ever ban a company like Tencent outright, and they would be more likely to just ban Warframe, or maybe DE, not Tencent as a whole, and I really don't see that being likely. First off, Warframe isn't nearly as popular as TikTok. Second off, Warframe doesn't spread any sort of propaganda, and finally, it's just owned 61% by Tencent and not all the way, so there may be some leniency there. However, the even bigger reason that I think Warframe, and honestly Tencent as a whole, will be okay is because it's a publicly traded company. And while it is based in China and has to listen to the Chinese government, its biggest shareholders aren't even Chinese and are actually South African. Since South Africa and the United States are pretty close allies, I find it unlikely that the United States would ban something that's so helpful to their economy, or at least the powerful few in their economy, because South Africa isn't the most fair country. There's some issues going on there. Look into it, guys. Not great. Anyway, finally, when it comes down to it, this TikTok ban has been extremely unpopular, with hordes upon hordes of people screaming into the air with their irritation on the decision. And Donald Trump, one of the people who actually got the TikTok ban rolling, has now denounced it and is working on a way to get TikTok unbanned. Because of this extreme unpopularity of the ban, and both political parties claiming that it wasn't their idea and trying to say the other one caused it, the huge amount of backlash for this ban will likely keep Congress from going forward with a ban on something like League or Warframe, since the fans would be like insane and literally rise up and vote for whoever would be willing to reverse the ban. Honestly, the unpopularity of this ban is probably the biggest reason we won't see it implemented on any Tencent properties, but hey, we can't be completely sure they won't, since Tencent does have literally all the check marks for being something that they would want to ban, and there's reasons for it. Alright guys, to really conclude this video, I don't think Warframe is going to get banned. However, I also don't think it's outside the realm of possibilities. I'm not really sure how to describe my thoughts on the chances in particular, because I think it's very unlikely it gets banned, but also I don't think it's like less than 1% chance or even a 5% chance, you know? So to really put a random meaningless number behind my thought process here, because I like numbers, I say there's like a 10% chance Warframe gets banned or possibly bought out from Tencent. I think it's as high as 10, because, well, Tencent is literally on the Chinese military companies list, and that is most definitely not a good list to be on when it comes to trying to spread your products throughout the United States. Anyway, that's all I got for this one. I hope you guys learned something new or found the video entertaining. All the links to like the news articles and stuff I used are actually in the description. Since this was a more journalistic video, you know, I thought I'd be a little bit more fancy with my sources. I don't mean to fearmonger about this topic, by the way, by talking about it, but I mean, it's not really fearmongering when there's a legitimate, decent chance it might happen. Of course, if you force me to pick between my country and my favorite game, I'd pick a VPN. And this is where it would be great to be a NordVPN sponsor, but they haven't hit me up yet! So I'm not going to do that. Anyway, I don't have the bank move out of the country to keep playing Warframe. Not that I would do that or anything. Anyway, huge shout out to all my members: Jay, Sonic King, Tier, Krazy, Panagoides, Tandanoises. You guys help the channel a ton by supporting it monetarily, and I really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody who watched this video and reached this point. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Stay blessed, stay happy, and I hope to see you all in the next one. And don't forget to stay safe out there.